Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the Cranston Public Library. And I wanted to thank each of you for being here today and extend a special appreciation to our congressional delegation, Senator Rhode, Senator Whitehouse, Representative Magaziner, and Representative Palma, for their steadfast support of libraries and the communities we serve. I wanted to just acknowledge a couple other people that are in the room. Our number one champion in the Rhode Island State Senate is here from Cranston, Senator Hannah Gallo. Thank you for being here. And also the chair of the Cranston Public Library Board of Trustees, Michael Goldberg, is in attendance with us. So, the president has launched an assault on libraries and their free access to information. His administration have called book bans a hoax, yet they have removed hundreds of books from military academy libraries. As many of you know, back in March, a presidential executive order called for the elimination of the Institute of Museum and Library Services. The resulting actions caused grant funding to libraries across the nation to be canceled, put the IMLS staff on administrative leave, and attempted to dismantle the agency. Our congressional delegation, along with other bipartisan leaders, have actively opposed efforts to eliminate the IMLS. Their efforts, along with the efforts of our Attorney General Peter Neronha, who co-led a lawsuit with 20 other state attorney generals that was filed here in federal court of Providence. The judge in that case has ordered a preliminary injunction that has temporarily halted the illegal dismantling of IMLS, ordered IMLS staff back to work, and has restored funding. Just last month, we witnessed another concerning development, the dismissal of Library of Congress, Dr. Carla Hayden. Dr. Hayden, who visited this library with Senator Rhode back in 2019, was the first African American and the first woman to hold that role, and had 1 year left on her term as Librarian of Congress, and has done an amazing job in transforming the library. This unprecedented move has sparked a constitutional debate, with serious questions being raised about executive authority over a legislative institution. So all the actions that I mentioned serve as a stark reminder that our work as library advocates is far from over. Your presence here today sends a powerful message that our communities value truth, access, and equity, and that our libraries are worth protecting. Thank you for standing with us. Together, we can continue to defend the role of libraries as essential institutions to a healthy democracy. Now, it's my honor to start the program off by introducing who I think everyone would acknowledge is our number one library champion in Congress for many, many years. In fact, I just had the honor of presenting him with the Rhode Island Library Association Library Champion Award last week, and it's my honor, Senator Jack Reed.
Thanks. Well, thank you very much, Ed. It is a pleasure to be with you and so many library advocates here today. We're fortunate to have great libraries in Rhode Island and great library leaders in Rhode Island. No one is more close to that title than Ed Garcia, our host and head of my library, the Cranston Library. James, not yet. And also Karen Miller, who's done a superb job leading the stage. She's terrific. Just to elaborate briefly on Ed's comments, it's reaching a point almost of absurdity. The Department of Defense has ordered all DoD school libraries to remove To Kill a Mockingbird. Whoa. A great piece of American literature illustrating the tensions in this country to be polite, and they can't read it. And it is assault on knowledge, but fortunately, we here in Rhode Island, and my colleagues in particular, are working very hard to push back as much as we can. Public libraries are probably the best institutions we have in this country. Everyone is welcome. You can find information that is vitally important to you, a job search or school information, or just something that will expand your horizon. And the Trump administration's attack, a frontal attack, on funding for public libraries and the Institute of Museum and Library Sciences, IMLS, threatens that success. You know, many American communities were built around their libraries by you, and they're taking the heart out of what I think is real harm. People able to make use of the library to better themselves, better their community, invest their time and energy in something better than that. It's fundamentally, as Ed has suggested, an attack on knowledge, similar to the attacks on prominent universities and on scientific research at the National Institutes of Health. It is a full-blown attack on what makes this country the most powerful, most productive, and we hope on the path to the most opportunity in the world: education, knowledge, research. They're against all that. Now, the funding that the Trump administration wants to cut from IMLS is roughly 45% of the state's budget for the Office of Library and Information Services. Now, this office supports interlibrary loans, giving every Rhode Islander the opportunity to get materials regardless of where they live, which is, I don't think any other state in the country does that. It supports summer reading programs, adult education, workforce development, and much, much more. These are the ingredients for a productive economy and a successful life, and they're taking them home. But together, we are pushing back. Rhode Island, along with other states and the American Library Association, have challenged the administration's attempts to dismantle the IMLS, and they've won in court. And I'm particularly grateful for our Attorney General Peter Neronha and his office for taking up this fight also. We're also fighting in Congress, and that's where Sheldon and Seth and Gabe are pillars of strength and fortitude, trying to resist this onslaught. Congress has the right to craft the laws of this nation and the constitutional power of the purse. So we are doing all we can to use that force to withstand this attack. And there's bipartisan support. Senators Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, they're Republicans from Maine and Alaska, continue to be my partners as we fight for libraries. We've worked together to reauthorize the Museum and Library Services Act and to pass bipartisan legislation to increase funding for libraries. Because of this partnership, we were able to increase funding for IMLS by over $52 million since 2019. We need more, not less. Together, these colleagues and I have called on the administration to reverse all these policies because we know the need for strong libraries is growing, not fading. We're in a world now of the need to navigate disinformation, ecosystems where information is difficult to understand whether it's true or false, conspiracy theories thriving on the internet. You need some place to go and say, is this true, is this false, etc. Give me the direction. Libraries are that place. They're trusted institutions, and there are not that many trusted institutions these days. Now that's why we're going to continue to fight. And fortunately, we've got a united front in the United States Congress, the Rhode Island delegation. At this point, I'd like to find my colleague, Sheldon Whitehouse, who is thoughtful, concerned, and tenacious in this fight. Thank you. I forget to recognize Senator Hannah Gallo, the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Education, and also Michael Goldberg. Hannah's terrific. She gets me elected every year. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's a great privilege to follow Jack Reed at a press conference about libraries. Because, as Ed pointed out, in the Senate, Jack is definitely known as Mr. Library. He's kind of the Hannah Gallo of the U.S. Senate,
But she's better
with
looking.
Hannah having that role in the state Senate. So the fact that they're both here is pretty cool for everybody who loves libraries. I'm delighted that litigation is working. It's working across a lot of the Trump mischief, but it has put the effort by, call them the doggies, call them the musk rats, to disable IMLS and put it out of business before litigation could catch up. It's what they did to USAID. We may be able to go back and try to rebuild, but everybody's been fired. The sign's been pulled off the wall. There's simply nothing left to rebuild. So they raced ahead of the legal process in their destruction. They were not able to do that with IMLS. They took some hits, but there's enough left standing to rebuild as appropriations and regular process begins to be restored. The one story that I want to tell has to do with our library, the Library of Congress, and the stunt that the Trump administration tried to pull there. As it turns out, Carla Hayden can be fired by the president, and for reasons that escape rational explanation, he chose to. Now, what he really wanted to do was to create a vacancy so that he could put executive branch people, his people, in to run the Library of Congress. Except it's not the Library of the President, it's the Library of Congress, and it's called that for a reason. So there was a moment, kind of a Hollywood moment, when Trump sent over the most senior people from the Department of Justice, the ones most able to intimidate the folks at the Library of Congress who had no leader with Carla Hayden gone. And in that moment, when they came over to take over, the librarians at the Library of Congress told them to buzz off. Stood their ground in a way that a lot of other people did not. And the sequel to that story is a woman named Shira Perlmutter, who is something not very known to people, called the Register of Copyrights. She runs the copyright process for the country. And guess what? She reports to the Librarian of Congress. And they fired her, and she said, no, you actually don't get to fire me. There's a Librarian of Congress who has to fire me, and you fired her, so there isn't one, so you can't fire me. And by the way, it's up to Congress to choose the next Librarian of Congress. And in all of these rows, interestingly, we actually had pretty good quiet support from Republicans, for whom the executive branch, including the Library of Congress, was a bridge too far. You didn't see much noise about it because they're frightened to challenge Trump publicly, but there was quiet pushback that both Jack and I were witness to and appreciated. So Paul Harvey used to say, you got to figure out what's the end of the story. What's the end of the story? Why did they make so much effort to go and try to fire Shira Perlmutter, to fire their way down to her and then get rid of her? And I think the answer is pretty obvious when you look around, and it's the creepy tech bros who are so infiltrated into the Trump apparatus, who want, through their AI businesses, to be able to be immune from copyright, to be able to, say, steal a Bob Dylan song through AI and then put it out there without having to honor the copyright for Bob Dylan's lyrics or an author's books or any of that. This was actually, through first Carla Hayden and then Shira Perlmutter, a very important raid by the AI tech bros to take apart the copyright protections for everybody in America whose work they would like to be able to use without compensation. And the real punchline here is, do not mess with librarians. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheldon. He stole my line, but it's true. Do not mess with librarians. I want to thank my colleagues, Jack, who's a tremendous champion for libraries and has been throughout his career, Sheldon and Gabe as well, Ed Garcia and everyone here at the Cranston Public Library, thank you for having us. Karen, Meller, and all of the librarians who are here, thank you for everything that you do for Rhode Island every single day. Public libraries are essential community assets, a source of knowledge, a source of education, activities for children like my kids, but more importantly than all of that, I think today, a place where people come together to build community. We live in this world today where we have become increasingly isolated from each other. People spend more of their time looking at screens than looking at their neighbors and their friends and forming real relationships. And in this environment where people have become more isolated from one another, libraries are a place that foster communities and bring people together, and that is more important now than ever. So we all love books, but we also know that libraries are about much more than books. It is about enrichment, education, knowledge, but also building communities, and I want to thank you all so much for doing that. This is why it is so disturbing and outrageous that the Trump administration and our Republican colleagues have waged a war on libraries. And Jack and Sheldon have spoken very well about what they're doing in Washington, where they have tried to infiltrate the Library of Congress, where they have fired the Librarian of Congress, who is a phenomenal leader and hero to many of us, where they have decided that they trust young people in the service academies to fly $40 million airplanes, but not to read Toni Morrison. I mean, this is insane stuff. But I think the most potentially damaging is the way that they are targeting funding for the IMLS. The IMLS, since 2020, has directed $11 million directly to Rhode Island libraries. And last year, 45% of the budget of Rhode Island's Office of Library and Information Services came from IMLS. So this is an attack on libraries all across the country, but would be particularly damaging here in Rhode Island. And understand this, what they are doing is illegal because under our Constitution, Congress appropriates funding to things like the IMLS, and the president's job is to deliver the funding. The president doesn't just get to say no, he doesn't want to deliver funding that Congress has appropriated because he feels like it. That would be essentially a line item veto, which is not in our Constitution. So what they're doing is illegal. The courts are standing up and telling them that it is illegal. Ultimately, I believe we will be successful. And when it comes to next year's budget cycle, they are going to need at least 10 Democratic votes in the Senate to pass their budget next year, which means they are going to have to negotiate with us. And I am so glad that in the United States Senate, we have Jack Reed and Sheldon Whitehouse who are prepared to make libraries a priority in any negotiation. So it starts here in Rhode Island, where we see on the ground the impact that you all are having day to day. We are taking that and bringing it to Washington so that we can fight for you, but more importantly, fight for the people who you serve every day. So we are here today to stand with librarians, to stand with all Rhode Islanders who use public libraries and who understand the importance and the value of public libraries. We are here with you today to say that we are going to defend public libraries in Rhode Island. We are going to draw a firm line, no cuts to libraries, no cuts to IMLS, and we are going to fight back against this war on knowledge and community building that the administration is waging. And I have a great partner in the House of Representatives in Rhode Island who is also very engaged in this fight, Gabe Amo.
Thank you so much, Congressman Magaziner, and let me echo my great feeling and sort of inferiority right at this moment to be next to the champion of libraries in the United States Congress, Senator Jack Reed, and certainly your leadership. I feel like I've been to 3 library events since I've been to Congress, and they've all heralded that work, and thank you for your leadership. And Senator Whitehouse and Congressman Magaziner, I'm grateful. I get to be on a big team that is focused on the things that matter to Rhode Islanders the most. And I find the attack on libraries central to our mission, because let's be very, very clear. An attack on libraries is an attack on knowledge, and it's an attack on opportunity. And I say that latter word, opportunity, because I spent a lot of time in the Pawtucket Public Library when I was a kid. And as I said earlier to our leaders of the Pawtucket Library, even though there are no late fees anymore, I had an IOU in my pocket because you helped change my life. You helped change my life. I spent a lot of time using the internet there when there wasn't internet at home. I spent time there asking the research librarians how to look up facts about history and government when I had a report. And I think about that experience and all of the experiences in our libraries where folks are getting that workforce training, getting that assistance to learn a little bit more about a topic that's going to be vital to their careers, the future of their families. That is the magic that happens at our libraries. And it's magic that just doesn't happen accidentally. It's because we invest in it, is we prioritize it. And so when you attack IMLS, when you attack the Library of Congress, what you're saying is, I don't want knowledge to be democratically available to everybody. And so I'm going to contain this for a few, and moreover, I want to define what it is to know, what it is to learn, to a very finite set of ideas that happen to reflect a narrow vision of the world, both as it is and what it can be. That is what this is about. And so my colleagues have articulated the facts very well, so I won't repeat. We know that this would be a big hit to the provision of these great services to Rhode Islanders, from Little Compton to Pawtucket to Smithfield to beyond the first district, but I have to name those and Cranston. But the numbers have a story behind them. And that story is Rhode Islanders who are working hard every day to add a bit of knowledge and opportunity to their mix in life. And so in Congress, you have 4 people who are going to be laser focused on preserving and fighting for every single dollar that is deserved by libraries here in this state and across the country. But it's not going to be an easy fight. We are in these unprecedented times, but we have great allies. I'm so thrilled that our Attorney General is helping to lead the way in litigation on this front. I am hopeful that in rooms like this across our country, library leaders are making their voices heard, especially to those who are complicit in their silence, our Republican colleagues who are letting this happen. And so I am always an optimist, but do know that this is a real fight. But it's one worth having, because Rhode Islanders are better off for your work, for all that you do, for all that our libraries do for our communities. And I am hopeful that that knowledge and opportunity will ultimately prevail. So thank you for letting me be here with you. Now, I have the great privilege of introducing my friend Karen Meller, the Rhode Island Chief of Library Services, to share more about impacts locally.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to see everyone here today, and I'd like to thank Senator Reed, Senator Whitehouse, Representative Magazina, and Representative Almo for being here today to support libraries. Rhode Island is a small state, but we have a very big voice when it comes to libraries. Whether it's in Congress or in federal court, we're fighting for libraries for everyone across the country. Senator Reed, as you've heard, is the lead advocate for libraries in the Senate and has been for nearly 30 years. He sponsored library legislation as a representative and has been the lead sponsor of the Museum and Library Services Act, which provides funding for the Institute of Museum and Library Services. He sponsored that in 2010, 2018, and hopefully in 2025. And Senator Whitehouse, Representative Magazina, and Representative Amo are equally strong library supporters, signing on to legislation and letters in support of the Library Services and Technology Act and the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and being at events like this today. And we're exceedingly grateful to all of you for the work you do in Washington. As we've heard, our delegation believes in the core principles of libraries. Intellectual freedom is our guiding principle. Freedom to read what we want, to view what we want, to listen to what we want, and to respect the rights of others to read, view, and listen to what they want. This is what libraries are all about. They are about providing a community space where people are free to express diverse viewpoints, where equity of access extends to all who walk through the building's doors or visit us online, and where people may feel included in the collections, the programming, and the services that are offered. Libraries are places for curious people who are seeking information and stories to nourish their minds and nurture their souls. Funding and services from the Institute of Museum and Library Services make this possible. The IMLS provides the nation with a map for inclusive library services, ensuring that everyone from the marginalized to mainstream America can find their place at the library. IMLS encourages libraries to support people in pursuit of a better job, those in search of accurate health information, those seeking a high school diploma or job skills. IMLS gathers and analyzes statistics and data on library use so that they may tell the story of how Americans use their libraries. And IMLS provides grants, as we've heard. My office received $1.4 million to support our agency in 2024, and nearly $9 million in the past 5 years. Out of that $9 million, over a third was used to directly support local libraries with grants for computers, for services, and programs, especially during the pandemic, thanks to some of the legislation that Senator Reed and his colleagues passed during the pandemic and the American Rescue Plan Act. We use federal funds at the statewide level to support the summer reading program for children and teens, and to support free library service to people who are blind or visually impaired, and they cannot read traditional print material. We provide access to online databases on Ask RI, training for library staff, support for children's and adult programming, consultant services to libraries, and data collection to drive decision-making. All of these services are only possible because of the federal funding that my office receives, which provides 45% of our budget to support Rhode Island's libraries. Franklin D. Roosevelt, in a letter to publisher Herbert Putnam, once said, "I have an unshaken conviction that democracy can never be undermined if we maintain our library resources and a national intelligence capable of utilizing them." With the help of our outstanding congressional delegation and their colleagues in the House and Senate, democracy will not be undermined, and libraries will continue to support the development of an educated population. With the help of our congressional delegation, federal funding and the IMLS will be preserved. Our libraries will continue to thrive thanks to robust state and federal support, and Rhode Islanders will continue to enjoy vibrant libraries as spaces that welcome and embrace our diverse communities with equitable and inclusive services from Westerly to Woonsocket, from Little Compton to Burrillville, and every city and town in between. So I'd like to thank Ed for hosting this event today, and thank all of our colleagues for being here, and thank you, all of my colleagues, for all the work you do every day to provide information, resources, and spaces where Rhode Islanders can thrive. Thank you.
I'll just close this out to say thank you all for being here. Thank you all for coming. Thank you again to Senator Reed, Senator Whitehouse, Congressman Magaziner, Congressman Amo, and my colleague Karen Miller for being here in support of libraries. Thank you for fighting a good fight for us. I know the work is just beginning. And we will prevail, and we will have strong libraries in Rhode Island with federal support and state support moving forward. And hopefully some good news with the Library of Congress. We'll see how that goes. And thank you very much.
Thank you.